not wanting to complicate matters, but if you're looking at another textbook, some textbooks will do this slightly differently. Instead of doing it looking like an absolute value there, they'll do 2 lines. So sometimes you will see this in some places. Questions before I can get back to blocks and forces? What is the total force now?
Are we multiplying it?
We are not multiplying.
1 in I hat.
Right, so I heard
-1 in I hat.
that is correct. It is not 7. I was expecting someone to yell at 7, but no, it's not. All right, so this is where that's what I'm looking for. This is where the I hat notation makes it potentially a little bit simpler than writing to the right or to the left. The total force is, well, total is just a sum. So I'm going to take this one right here, which is 3 newtons I hat, and then this one right here, plus -4 newtons I hat. In math class, you might see that as 3x minus 4x. That's the math problem. But of course, we make it look more complicated, but this is all we're dealing with here. I have 3 newtons I hat plus -4 newtons I hat. The math is 3 plus -4. That's the math problem.
Why wouldn't this be 3n minus 4n or whatever? Why do we need the plus minus in the negative order?
Oh, why do we need plus negative?
Yes.
As opposed to just negative?
Yes.
Or minus sign? I was emphasizing the fact that we're adding a negative quantity, but mathematically, absolutely right. At some point, I'm going to drop that and just write minus. And so this is 3 minus 4, and then newtons I hat. So that's where -1 comes from. Because direction matters. If direction didn't matter, then, well, it'd be 7. That's scalar math. All right. I'm going to do one more like this, and then I'm going to make it more complicated.
I was gonna ask about up and down too, but I was like, you probably don't tell us.
I anticipated your question. Great minds thinking for 1 second. So what is this one?
I mean, I don't know how to write it.
It would be 0 for newtons, wouldn't it?
0?
That's not moving left or right. We have it covered up and down here.
Okay, so how are we going to handle that? Lady, you have some way of describing this?
So it's gonna go down 1, but I don't know how we're supposed to write that.
All right, so 1 newton down.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget units. This is, I've noticed there's some students who just seem to hate units, and they keep dropping units off the problem.
1 newton.
Don't forget units. All right, so 1 newton down, but of course we don't want, well, let's go ahead and write that for now, and then we'll, 1 newton down. So make it look like a 1 instead of something else. All right. But of course, we don't want to write the word down because that's way too much writing. So we have to somehow account for vertical. Because we got I hat to handle the horizontal, but we got vertical now. Traditionally, what comes after I? Heard somebody say it.
J.
You want j hat to be up or down?
Down.
All right. So I'm over here, I'm just gonna write my arrow down. I'm gonna put a little j hat right there. And so this is now 1 Newton j hat. Now, if this were a completely brand new problem, I could have done I hat being down or I hat being up, and that would have been fine. But since I already have I hat defined, I can't use it for a different direction.
So we'll use for up, okay?
So not up, up, what would up be?
Would it still be J too, but would it be negative?
Absolutely. K is if we're doing the third dimension.
Getting ahead of myself. Getting ahead of myself.
That's okay. We're not gonna do a whole lot with K hat. If this were, we touch on it in chapter 8 is basically the first time where we really have to deal with that third dimension. Because if you think about that, if we think about this room right here, and I throw this, there's a projectile motion problem right there, and you might think, well, that was 3 dimensions, but it's actually, if that's my coordinate system right there, yeah, that's a 3-dimensional problem. I can always change my coordinate system so it's a 2-dimensional problem. You know? So a lot of what we deal with in the first 7 chapters, we really don't need to have a third dimension. All right, questions here before I do another variation of the theme? And watch out, I'm going to use something other than 3 newtons and 4 newtons. What is the total force now?
So is it gonna be, 7 in J hat?
Are you stopping there? That's what I heard you say, 7 and j hat.
Yeah, I'm stopping there.
All right, pick up where she's left off.
Oh, it should be negative? No.
No,
No.
somebody said, I think Jesse said down was negative. Or down was positive, sorry.
So it'll be 5 and I.
Well, this is one thing. I was hoping somebody would just take a shot at it.
I was assuming minus.
I can't see what you're missing. Oh, there we go.
I would assume to minus it.
Why would you minus?
Why would I?
You said you would just minus something. You put a minus sign in between here?
That's what I would just assume to do.
The minus sign would mean opposite
That's right.
the direction, and we have to the right is I hat.
Oh,
So it'd be plus 5 newtons.
Stick a plus in between.
okay.
Somewhere there are dark markers.
It ain't going to floor.
So 7.
So if it was on the other side, it would be minus.
7 newtons j hat plus 5 newtons I hat. That is the total force. Total is just a sum. Now, if I got them in different directions, if they're all I hats or all j hats, I would combine them. But I have I hat and j hat, so it is legitimate to just put a plus sign in between them.
And then that's it?
And that's it. This is known as rectangular form. Like,
Did you have to do J-Hat first?
no, I only did J-Hat because that's what Toyo said first. Traditionally, you do I-Hat and then J-Hat, then K-Hat, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. Or flashing back to math vocabulary, the commutative property of addition still holds. It doesn't matter the order in which you add them. I'm sure by my saying commutative property of addition, all of you flash back to some happy memories. All right, I think we're ready. I'm feeling confident. Don't just blurt out the answer. Give everybody a chance to think of what the answer is before somebody spoils it. Years ago, I taught elementary school, and I made sure I wrote really neatly. And then when I stopped teaching elementary school, I thought, oh, great, I don't have to write neatly anymore. But then I have a lot of people asking me, what does that say? So if you can't read my handwriting, just ask. I think that's legible, but I know what I meant to write. If you think you have an answer, just sort of raise your hand briefly so I can just see where people are. Okay.
Dr. Fox, I have a question for you.
Okay.
You said you were concerned with the whole COVID situation going on right now. So if, I'm just saying, knock on wood, I hope nobody gets COVID, but just say something was to happen, what is the plan for if you do have COVID and can't
Right.
come in?
So if you have been exposed
Mhm.
and you go into quarantine and ideally contact the Foresight Tech COVID team,
Okay.
they will then sort of take it from there and guide you through it.
Okay.
So from a teaching point of view, assuming that this is an isolated thing, if your mask is off and you're breathing on people in here, then potentially this suddenly becomes an online class.
Mhm.
What would happen as far as so you exposed off-site sometime between Tuesdays, so no one else in this class was involved.
Yeah.
So presumably you'll let me know.
Mhm.
The COVID team is not necessarily going to let me know.
Mhm.
I would not tell the class that, hey, Nathan caught COVID.
You better?
What I
I was joking.
it's some sort of privacy issue. What I would do is I would contact Nathan and say, is it okay if I tell the class? I did have a student last semester who was exposed, actually got it. It wasn't just exposed, had COVID. And I asked his permission, and I had his permission. And then I said, hey, so-and-so got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And just so that people can sort of do a double check of, oh, I was around him too closely or something like that. And then as far as class goes, we would then work out somehow of working with it. If you've got the mild asymptomatic case, then presumably you'll work from home.
Okay.
If
That's
you've got
what
a
I was
really bad
curious
case,
about.
then when you've recovered, assuming that you do,
Mhm.
that was not assuming the other option is dying. I know some people with long-term issues.
Yeah.
Then when you're well enough, we'll talk about how to get you.
Okay. So that was my biggest. Yeah. Okay. That was my biggest question was,
Yeah.
if you would work with us outside of class.
Absolutely. And since this is a 15-week class instead of a 7.5-week class, we got a little bit more leeway.
Yeah, I guess.
Thank goodness.
Space to. Thank you very much.
7.5-week class. Imagine doing all of this in half the time. All right. Is there another question? All right, the hand up may have just been indicating that they're ready. At this point, I'm hoping people have it and answer. Oh, if this works, you'll see tears of joy coming from me. In unison. The answer is?
I don't know.
I would not say that was the chorus of angels I was hoping for, but yeah, that was. So I'm gonna do it the long way. What I heard I think was the right answer. The long way is I got 3 newtons I hat plus 5 newtons I hat minus 2 newtons j hat. That was wrong. Minus 2 newtons I hat plus 4 newtons j hat minus 6 newtons j hat. Now, some people have had difficulties telling the difference between my I's and J's. I's I curl off to the right, J's I curl off to the left. My J's actually look like J's. And so now I combine like terms. So I got my I hats here, so I've got 8 minus 2, so I have 6 newtons I hat minus 2 newtons J hat. And done. Again, all this assumes that's I've defined I hat and J hat. If J hat had been flipped so up was positive, then that would be a positive 2 newtons.
Mr. Run that back again.
All right, which part? Right.
You know what, cause I forgot, I didn't see that 6 down there.
Ah, it was a ninja move.
Yeah, so.
All right, bring this. Are you good with the 6 newtons there? What? Now that you see
Yeah,
it?
so what you did was you subtracted the 2 from the 5, right? And then added those 2. That's how you got 6? Sorry.
I got the 6 because I have 8 going to the right and 2 going to the left. So that's a total of 6. That's 8 minus 2. And then up and down, I got more up than down.
Okay.
And up is negative.
Yeah, I missed the 6.
Okay.
And then I didn't think that's how you was supposed, okay. Okay.
So a takeaway I want all of us to have from this is show your work. 110 students especially, on tests, the number of times I just see an answer and I'm going, I think I know how they got this, but they showed absolutely no work, no credit. Or someone else with the exact same answer but showed their work, oh, that was a careless error, -1. Please, please, show your work.
Well, show your work, you mean write it out the long way, like you did it first?
You don't have to write it out the long way,
Okay.
but I was just doing this for those who didn't immediately see this.
Okay.
So how do you know when to use the J hat or the I?
I don't know if it's I hat or J hat, because right here, I said I hat was to the right and J hat was down. In other words, I hat handles all the horizontal stuff, J hat handles all the vertical stuff. And why does I hat handle the horizontal stuff? Because I said so. Yeah, you could have, if you had wanted to, if you said, listen, I don't want to listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I hat is up. That's fine. You have the power. So, to some extent, it's arbitrary, but traditionally, and we will get to a point in which I hat is not going to be horizontal, but traditionally I hat is horizontal and J hat is vertical, but it's only because that's written down. Now some textbooks will, instead of using I hat and J hat, will use X hat and Y hat. And the reason I don't do that is the math brainwashing. X, Y. Why? Why is X this way, positive X this way and positive Y that way? Why not this? There will be a point in which that is actually convenient. And if people are still stuck in X and Y like this, well, hopefully you can break out of some of that by using I and J. All right. it's time for a break. Stretch your legs. We'll come back. And let's continue on this journey of physics.
How many minutes we got?
Let's say 5 minutes. You need more? Okay. Yeah, several people have asked me about the bathroom. First off, bathrooms on the other side of this wall. Ladies' room on my right, the men's room on my left. And I'm assuming all of you are adults, so if you need to step out for any reason, just step out.
I have a question.
Yep, Erica.
So I'm assuming you'll always like run until 5:50, right? Like, are you gonna do that today? I always have an online class at 6 right up. I have to finish it early, so when I always just stay here, like
Yeah,
for going home, but
sorry.
obviously if I can, I can just go to the library. I was just curious.
My preference is you stay till 5:50.
Yeah.
But, you know, you are the maker of your own destiny there. If you can do it here and then go down to the library, that's
Is
great.
it down at the first floor? down
Yeah, well,
Okay.
or a library or whatever they call it, the media center, the computer lab, whatever. Yeah, the computer's downstairs. If you need to do it someplace else for some reason, then, you know, you make that decision.
there? No, I'll probably just go.
And sorry, I've been trying to figure out what's above Sleepy Hollow there.
No, I can't see.
Trippy Red.
Oh,
Trip, right.
yeah. Thank you.